Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you have had a good beginning to your week. Oh, man, I'm feeling all right, y'all. I'm going to be honest with you, right? It's been an interesting time. We'll talk about that in a moment. If you don't know me, my name is Devon Morris, and this is the Unfiltered Call-In Show where we talk about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, coaching, all those wonderful things. Here's the deal. If you haven't done it before, make sure you like, subscribe, follow us, click the bell, all this other stuff that they say, right? That I never say. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so just know we're trying to get there. So invite people, let them know, come see the show, come ask some questions, all those kind of things, right? So today, what are we talking about today? Today, our topic is going to be fragmented tools. Fragmented tools is our topic, and I'm bouncing in different places to make sure that I'm taking care of everything for us as we flow. But today we're talking about fragmented tools, right? Now, as we operate, if you have not been to the call-in show before, it's really simple. You are welcome to call in, digitally call in. I will provide the actual digital call-in link for you to do that. But just know that we really don't start truly accepting any call-ins until about 15, 20 minutes in the show, because we actually have a conversation first, and then we actually go ahead and allow things to open up so people can ask questions. So I went ahead and dropped the actual call-in button there, but just know if you do, what's going to happen is you'll be waiting until it's time for me to bring people on. Otherwise, you're welcome to drop your question in the chat. We get to the vast majority of questions. So that would be an amazing thing for you to do, for you to get involved in if you got a question. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. Now, let's talk about what's going on first, because we always start there before we jump into any information. Man, it's been an interesting week. I've been involved in 3 to 4 graduations, high school graduations. Man, last week you saw I was in south suburbs of Chicago. I caught COVID on the way to Chicago. My engine for my car blew up. So I had to get it towed to Tulsa, and I'm good in terms of throat and everything. I mean, I'm solid, right? Nothing really lingering, out riding bikes, doing what I do. Just glad to be back home. Glad to be back in the studio, basically, is what it boils down to. Because, you just can't do everything every place else. You try to bring stuff and you just can't get it right. And my light blew out, so hopefully this lighting is fine. I mean, this lighting is probably better than the lighting that I had before as I look at it, because I'm like, man, my LED light went out. It went out yesterday, last night, really late it went out. So now I had to dig in the crates and pull some other lights that I have out that I've used for other reasons, but these are better than that. So so hopefully the lighting is right and everything else is cool, because I'm trying to make sure everything works out well. Man, I'll tell you the biggest news I got. I mean, okay, first of all, I got a CSM class coming up. I'm doing a CSPO class right now. CSM class is Wednesday, Thursday, and then this weekend, I believe we got a CSPO weekend, and I don't know what's happening in July. I got to figure that out, and I got to make it to New York later on this next week. I do believe I go to New York. So it's just going to be a wonderful time, so whatever you got going on, you got going on. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that I say hi Hi to all of you all that's out there on LinkedIn. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure you drop a hi in the chat. I always appreciate seeing people say hi. It kind of helps me out, right? So Patrick, as usual, hi. How you doing, brother? I'm excellent, man. I'm excellent. You know, P Bell, how you doing? Welcome, 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 welcome. And then for anybody else to come on, I see you. Say hi, and I'll call you out, give you a shout out, because that's kind of how I operate. Now, in terms of probably probably the biggest news I got. Some of you gonna be crazy about this, but I'm just gonna show it, right? Biggest news I got, right, is I got my little giant size X-Men. Look at that. That's pretty. See all the light on it and everything else. So I'm super happy about having that. So some of you all know that I collect comic books and do things of that nature as well. Maybe I'll do a show about that one day. But that's really hard to do. But on that note, let's kind of start having a conversation, okay? Let's talk about the topic of the day because I think it's important to address the topic. And the topic is about fragmented tools. And it's a really simple topic. If you have been inside of a large enough organization, it don't even have to be a large organization. There's just a problem that classically occurs as we try to expand or automate or just get some benefits from utilizing tooling, right? Utilizing tooling when it comes to the application of Scrum, Agile, coaching in general, right? Coaching is a little bit more in person. But in general, you start running into issues where there are tools that exist. And again, it doesn't matter what the tools are, right? Because it's not just about the Agile lifecycle management tools being a part of a fragmented system. It really is, in general, this can apply in almost any situation in any organization. And so let's just pull back for a moment. What do I mean by a fragmented tool? Fragmented tools usually occur when they try to piecemeal things together to try to get some benefits or take advantages of tools that exist or try to have more transparency. And when you start seeing these kind of things, then you end up in a place where things aren't cohesive. People are putting data into multiple places. A lot of times this can begin with simply the limitation that one's current tools have, right? And then you go out and get another tool, and then you're able to get some benefits from that other tool, and then this tool that you got, it has some limitations, but you still find a reason or two to utilize it, and then they may not sync in terms of data, so you end up in a situation where now people are entering some of the same kind of data or similar data in 2 or 3 or 4 different tools. Sometimes you want to do that, not that you want to have the issue of tool fragmentation, but sometimes you want people to have freedom of choice or be able to utilize a tool that they're more comfortable with, right? And with them being more comfortable with a particular tool, they're going to probably be a little bit more productive in that particular area. You know, some organizations have mixed computer systems like Mac versus PCs, and, you know, they come with sometimes different software. So really, you start running into situations where even the idea of giving people freedom of choice. Some of you have seen systems that are large enough where there's customization that actually occurs within the system, where they customize things or they're trying to have a particular user experience, whether it's internal users using it or an external someone using it. But you piecemeal these things together, and ultimately what you end up with is a fragmented ecosystem, a fragmented system, or what I'm just calling fragmented tools. Hey, Ms. Hancock, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? And so it's interesting to say the least. But if you've been around this game long enough, you have likely experienced it. So there's really nothing new about it for the majority of you all in just talking in the chat. Matter of fact, I'll ask this question. Have you Have you experienced the situation? And if you have experienced the situation, just drop in the chat a couple tools that you felt that you all were using that was not working with the other tools that existed in the ecosystem. Just throw a couple names out there. We're not saying anything negative about the tools. This is not what that's about. But somebody I put in the chat to name some tools, right? The idea is really simple. It can be across any tool. This is probably not an issue with the tools, right? Probably the biggest problem that fragmented tools cause is the problem of impacting productivity in a negative way. Okay? And when you start thinking about impacting productivity in a negative way, the thing that we always kind of jump into is context switching or multitasking, but that may not necessarily be what we're talking about here, right? We're really talking about maybe, you have a project management tool and then some other kind of tool that you're working with, and then you got some agile lifecycle management tool that you're trying to connect to the project management tool. So there could be all kinds of tools that exist, but this that connection that becomes the problem, and it's the multiple data in different places, right? Now, here's the deal. Here's the real truth. This is really agnostic to agile. It's an agile problem because it's a problem for everybody in general. There's not a place where I've been to where if you got a group of people working together for some period of time, we don't end up with some fragmentation, especially if people got the ability to select something, right? Select various tools that they may like or dislike, right? And so some of the things that I think about is first and foremost, how do we start to address the problem? So let's just say you are in a position and you have the ability to help address the problem. The first thing that I would say to you is you have to make sure that you think about the long-term impact for those tools playing nice together. So really, you want tools to play nice together. You want tools to work well together. You want tools to almost feel like they seamlessly connect, right? That's what you really want if you're gonna have that. And that takes some work, right? Because if you have different tools that you're trying to put together, you really are looking for some unified, cohesive system. And some people will just buy a big old application lifecycle management system or something like that to help manage that. CRMs have jumped into the business as well. Just this one tool that can do almost your everything. But that's really hard to have, even when you buy the big boy tools like the Microsofts and Salesforces and IBMs and HPs of the day, right? So it can be really hard to do. So it's something to think about. But that leads to a very interesting place that we never want to talk about in this space. And that's governance and standardization. Because one of the ways to truly deal with the problem is to have some level of governance, governing the tools, and having people be able to really think through the impact of various tools before you make long-term commitments to these tools. I understand piloting things, I understand trying things out, but the organization has to have some governance or some form of standardization that you can collectively work through and have a plan around, okay? And a lot of times when we speak in this agile world, we don't like to speak about standardization. We don't like to think about governance, but all governance isn't horrible. It isn't bad. You just want to make sure that you understand it's non-value add but necessary. And then anything that's non-value add but necessary, you want to make sure you don't do too much of that, right? You want to do just enough to kind of get the job done, if that makes sense, right? If that makes sense. So, realistically, fragmented tools don't have to be a crazy problem. It's just, you got to also think about other things that you want to deal with, right? You want to make sure it's tools that users are going to love. By making sure users are dealing with tools that users love, you end up in situations where they actually use the tools. One of the biggest problems I run into, with a lot of these tools is that we don't use the tool for what it can really truly do. And that happens probably more often than not, which leads to there being duplication, right? Because you think you don't have the capability to do something, then you buy another tool, and now you got an overlap between them, okay? What else I would say that you should do is to make sure that you focus on the problem. You're getting a tool to solve some problem. What is that problem that you're trying to solve? And if you focus on that, I have a product owner class today, and one of the things that I was talking to them about today is focusing on the customer problem and not your business, not your products, because it's about the customer problem. And here's the same problem. You want to focus on the problem that you're trying to solve more than anything else. And if you use that as your North Star, it's going to help you, okay? You got to make sure that you ensure interoperability and compatibility between the tools. That will help. Them being connected, them being compatible, that they operate well together. You want that, okay? And then the other thing that I would say, probably if there's any managers in the room, anybody's going to be dealing with that, what's the total cost of ownership when it comes to the tools? And then what kind of security things that you got to deal with in today's age? I had to change my actual passwords for my actual Southwest account today. Southwest Airlines, right? They said that there was unauthorized activity on my account. I just recently changed it. But the idea is that security is another big thing, and so you want to make sure that you take care of security, because security is just a part of everything these days. You can't really get around that, okay? So that right there is how I would think about, one, what a fragmented tool is, right? Fragmented tools, I should say, because it is really a problem in Agile, but it's a problem across the board in almost any workspace, okay? So it's something we always run into, something we got to deal with, period. Why it occurs, yeah. The problems that it causes, productivity issues, and then some of the things that we can do to actually deal with it becomes really, 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 really important, okay? Evelyn, I got your email. I'm going to send you an email tonight. I do. So, hey, how you doing? So it's one of those things where I think I've talked about that topic. So I think we're good. We're good. What else can I say about fragmented tools? Off the top of the dome. I think that's it. So I will welcome anyone that has any questions to either drop those questions in the chat, or you are certainly welcome to join us on the show. If you have never been in the show before, if you've never been around the show before, then it's a whole different problem there. It's just a whole different deal that you got to deal with, right? And so I got somebody at my front door trying to get in, so let me let them in. I'm about to say, don't go nowhere, because they're getting something important for me. So hold on, show. Hold on. Sorry about that. I'd have been super rude if I didn't let my family in. So, that being said, y'all can turn on the lights and do whatever you need to do. If Tony brings that in, he can bring it in and open that door. The power thing. What power door? You know the thing, right? Just press the second button. Okay? Yeah, that one. Yep. So, that being said, questions. Let me drop these in the chat one more time. I'm sorry about that, but my cousin got me a generator. And in Texas, I need a generator. Seriously. Because this heat is ridiculous here. And you know what else is ridiculous? The winter at times. So it's too extreme. So, my question for you all is, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? If you do, drop them in the chat or join me on the call-in show. You're welcome to do that. So yeah, I'll tell you, man, it's been an interesting one, but I'm having a beautiful week. I really am. I had an amazing class today, and I was actually having a conversation with the class about fragmented tools, and everybody in the class experience fragmented tools in one way or another. I literally kid you not. And it was just one of these amazing things when you start having conversations with people with their experiences that they're having in common. It's just pluses, man. It's just pluses. So I am super happy in terms of it. Let's see. I see question here. I don't know if it's the same question because I see P. Bell has really asked a question twice here. What's the virtual whiteboard tool called? They have several virtual whiteboards. There's not a virtual. Matter of fact, I would say that I think Zoom now has a whiteboard. You know, but you know, you got Miro, Mural. Those are collaboration tools. Google has a Jamboard. There are all kinds of whiteboards that exist. All a virtual whiteboard is. Imagine that this is a whiteboard. It's just digital. And you can write on it and do whatever you want to do with it, right? You know, so for example, if I say to myself, you know, I got a way to take virtual notes, right? If I open up my tool here and open up a blank page here, I don't have it connected. I could literally call this a virtual whiteboard, right? But it's just a place classically where people can collaborate and do everything else. So, you know, this what just came on the screen is a virtual whiteboard, right? It's one of those virtual whiteboards. And so a lot of times people, at least historically speaking, we would use a whiteboard to put, you know, index cards on, you know, stickies on, right? And we'd have columns and things of that nature, right? But you're using that whiteboard for a purpose, whether it is you are collaborating on the design or you are using a board so you can treat it like a Kanban board or a Scrum board in general, where you are seeing progress happen over time. That's all key, right? So then that says, what is the digital whiteboard? It's the same thing. So I think your questions are the same. So let's talk about the next question here. I'll throw it on the screen. I didn't throw the other one on the screen. That's my fault. What is your take on pointing spikes versus not pointing spikes? That's a good question. I haven't heard this question in a while. So here's the deal. When it comes to, well, the first question I'll ask everybody else. What is a spike? What is a spike? Does anybody know what a spike is? If you do, throw it in the chat. We'll see who's right, okay? But, you know, classically, a spike is a learning activity. It is setting aside time to learn. But can anybody tell me what is the number one problem when you're trying to estimate a spike? It's not a complicated thing. Think about times you have to go research something. Just really think about times that you have to research something. What's the problem that happens when you try to research something? Might take you a little bit of time, might take you a long amount of time. But you know what the number one problem is? You can't estimate that time. It's really hard to estimate that time. So how do you really estimate research? So now, ask yourself this question. If you're doing pointing or story pointing, you're actually estimating, right? And if you're doing research, it's really hard to estimate how long it's going to take for you to complete the research. So the question I would ask you is, if a spike is research and it's hard to estimate research, then it's going to be hard to estimate a spike. So I don't estimate spikes. You are welcome to do it. What I classically will do is time box research. Time box spikes. Does that make sense? And when you time box spikes, now you have given yourself an allotted amount of time that says, hey, you know what? This is all the time we're going to spend on it, and that's it. We're not going to do anything else. And so I'm very proud because I can see Miss Hancock's taking my class. She know what a spike is. It's a very typical classic question that comes up in class. So a spike is normally when you're doing research. Classically, it's technical spikes, but it could be a product spike. There's spikes that go by different names, but definitely that's what a spike is. It's really you're trying to do some research, right? An opening amount of time to do a spike is really interesting, right? Because that's research is an open time. That's the reason why you want to time box it. So very, very serious, super important topic. Always a debate in the community. I'll repeat my answer. I do not estimate spikes. I don't. There may be some people that do. I don't think it's logical to estimate spikes because it's really hard to estimate research. That's it. I time box spikes. That's it. In my experience, that's always been the better thing to do. Okay? So really simple, not complicated. Don't make it complicated for yourself. Okay? Very seriously. Don't make it complicated for yourself. Okay? Other questions, other thoughts. That spike thing is always an interesting question. Another thing that comes up, since we talked about spikes, another thing that comes up is, should you split story points? Should you split them? So like, you know how you get to the end of an actual sprint and something's what you think is 50% done, and you want to take an 8-point story and divide it by 50%, and you earn 4 points now, and then you'll earn 4 points when you complete it? I don't know. Who actually thinks that's a good practice? Would be my question at this point. Who really thinks that's a good practice? Hopefully you don't. But it's always been over the years a debate in the community on whether you want to split. And most of the time, I ask people one simple question. Why are you splitting? And when I get to the real reason of why they're splitting, after asking a few whys, it usually boils down to they're trying to present a certain cadence or a certain velocity consistently over a period of time, or management is holding them accountable toward maintaining a particular pace or a particular velocity. Does that make sense? And so you run into that situation. So my statement to you clearly is this. I don't do it. You are welcome to do it, but I don't do it. I also have other opinions that are interesting, but that one is an easy one to deal with. Okay? Let's talk. Let's talk further, right? Let's see. Another question here. How many spike items would you recommend per sprint? I wouldn't recommend nothing to you. I wouldn't recommend anything. Because what is a spike? Taking time to do research. You can actually add a task to your stories to do the research. You really can. So there's nothing that says you have to have a certain amount of spikes or you shouldn't have a certain amount of spikes. So I don't recommend a number. I say if you got a lot of them and you consistently have a lot, that's probably a sign of a bigger problem. But there is no standard on how many spikes you should have. And the worst part about that is every spike isn't equal. So if somebody said to you, you shouldn't have any more than 3 spikes, what does that mean? Let's say we divided spikes into small, medium, and large. A large spike or 3 large spikes may not make sense to have. But if you could have 2 large spikes, and instead would you pull in 10 small spikes? No, that just makes no sense, right? There's no number associated with that. Do what's in the best interest of your team. That's what I would say. But I don't know of any standard, and I don't hold my team accountable to any standard. If we need to have some spikes, we have some. If we don't, then we don't. It's just really that simple. We don't take it any further than that. We don't play any games with the wording or do anything that is going to be ridiculous. Do what's in the best interest of the team. And if you do what's in the best interest of the team, good things will happen. Good things will happen. Okay? That's the best way for me to actually put it. Okay? So really, really, really very simple. Okay? All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Let's take a look. Right? In analytics, the research time is based on the desired due date. Okay, that's fine. I don't know that to be true or to be false, but that means you're time boxed. A due date, if I say to you in analytics, if I say to you the due date is, let's just say it's 8:30 right now. If I say to you that the due date is Wednesday 8:30, it's Monday right now, then what I'm saying to you is you got 48-hour time box to get the research done. Now, if you got to do some work, you got a bigger problem because now you left no time to do the actual work. So for me, there's no logic to that, right? The due date is the due date. I'm assuming that you're doing some work, some research to answer some question, to move towards solving a problem and going from there. So I'll ask any other questions. Because if you don't have any questions, you know how I operate. I won't hold us here because I'm here to answer your questions. And if you don't have any, that's fine. That's great. That's superb. That's wonderful. But we'll always be back here next week and do the same thing because I made a commitment to show up on the vast majority of Mondays. I cannot show up every Monday. Sometimes I fall out and I get tired, man. I do. I get real tired. Anyway, that's me talking crazy. That's me talking crazy. So, yeah. So, anyway, but yeah, when it comes to spikes, you do whatever you choose to do. Like I said, I time box my spikes. I learned to time box spikes like in 2007, right? Because it made no sense with how many spikes we was pulling into a sprint. It was ridiculous. And really, most of the spikes we was pulling in sprints was due to a big reason. Requirements that sucked. Do you understand what I'm saying? We had requirements that sucked, so it just caused all these variations, these variations in time, and so we had to spend all this time doing that, and we had product owners that did, but it wasn't available, didn't have time. So realistically, our issue was we had a requirements problem. So if you got a ton of spikes, I guarantee you, right? I guarantee you, if you got a ton of spikes and you got to have spikes all the time, you got a requirements problem. There's no absolutes, right? So take that with a grain of salt. Just so you know, this is not financial advice or legal advice, like they will say in just about every commercial. It's not financial advice. It's not legal advice. So please understand that. Okay? Oh, man. So, yeah. So anyway, the point is we do what we must do, right? Let's see. Got another couple questions here, so let's talk about that. How do you track action items from a sprint? Me? I put them in the product backlog. That's a real easy answer, right? I just put them in the product backlog. If you have tools, some tools will have special ways to track them. But for me, my default is anything that... Here's my idea. You tell me if I'm crazy or not, right? Somebody tell me if I'm crazy. For me, the product backlog, regardless of what you call the things in the product backlog, is a list of potential work. So a PBI, a product backlog item, is a potential item to work on. It doesn't matter to me whether you call it a user story. It doesn't matter to me whether you call it an action item. It doesn't matter to me whether you call it a spike or whatever it is. It does not matter. It's just a flipping piece of work. That's it. So an action item is a potential piece of work. Now, would I put every action item out of retrospective in there? Probably not. I would just put ones that we classically voted on, say we're going to probably work on at some point in the future, because they can become useless after some time of sitting there. But for me, retrospective, coming out with action items, some of those action items are going to go into that product backlog so we can pull them and then make sure that we talk about them. Does that make sense? So really very simple, not a complicated thing, but just please know what I'm really good at doing is I'm really, really good at simplifying things. It's always been a plus for me. I'm really good at keeping things as simple as possible. So use a tool that you got. Product backlog exists. I use that particular tool, or wherever you hold your list at. If you want to maintain a separate list, so help your soul. That's too much stuff for me to manage, right? And then in that product backlog, I can prioritize it accordingly, right? Okay, so that's a good thing. That's nothing but pluses. Hey, how you doing, AB? How's it going, man? Let's see. Let's talk about this. How often will you have weekend CSM classes? You know what, Ms. Hancock, I've been doing them probably once every 3 months. You know, because once the pandemic happened, I mean, prior to the pandemic, if I'm being honest with you, we always did weekend classes. Always did weekend classes. Because I promised myself, like, before I became a trainer, I took my class during the weekday. And I was a contractor. And you know, as a contractor, you don't get paid if you don't show up to work. So you have to really sacrifice a couple days of not getting paid. And so I promised myself that if I ever be in that position to train anything like that, I would do weekend classes. I really would do weekend classes. But the problem is, a weekend class caused you an issue. Because now, people aren't showing up to weekend classes. They don't. Because what's happening in classes, and it's interesting, people show up to a weekday class and they are barely engaged in a lot of cases. They're barely engaged. It's kind of crazy, right? They're barely engaged. And because they're barely engaged, it's like they can take advantage of being online to some degree. So I just don't do as many of those anymore. So put it to you this way. I have one every 3 months. Make sure that I do that. And I got to make sure I put the next set out there. I don't think I have one scheduled for... I don't think I have one scheduled. I don't know. Last one I did was probably in May. So I'm due for one coming up. So it'll be August, or it'll be July, August, or September. I don't know which date it'll be, but it'll be one of those dates. Okay? Y'all know that the whatchamacallit is in there if you need to grab anything. The thing for the TV is there. So, good question, but if the demand rose for them, I would actually have them more. But right now, the demand's not there for weekend classes since COVID happened. Okay? So that may change. Okay? So good question. So let's see. Let me continue down the road here. I use Jira for I'm assuming Ms. Hancock was talking about the actual question that was, let's see, typical requirements, issues, Yeah, let's see. How does a Scrum Master serve the product owner? Let me throw that on the screen here. Evelyn, I think you took my CSM class, and we do talk about this kind of stuff as a part of the Certified Scrum Master. And realistically, I really think about the Scrum Master in a very particular way. And you probably should too. If you really say to yourself, what is a Scrum Master there to really do? If I really just boil it down to what I personally think, I think as a Scrum Master, you are there to help the product owner, developers, and organization be better today than they were yesterday. Okay? Now, understand that makes this really, really big. Okay. So for me, what that turns into, if you as a product owner had some difficulty in doing your role, I would try to find a way to assist you, not do the work for you, but assist you to be a better product owner. Does that make sense? Because in assisting you to be a better product owner is going to help everybody get better. So, example, if I had a product owner that wasn't really good at facilitating sessions where they pull stakeholders in to get information on requirements. I'm staying away from the word gathering requirements because a lot of times that's just collecting them, right? But to really facilitate, get to the nitty gritty of what stakeholders want to see in the future, what users want to see in the future, and they're not really good at doing that. I would try to help them get better at doing that so they don't have to rely on me and I become the bottleneck for them. I don't want to have to go in and facilitate everything for them. So I want to help to position them to be a better facilitator. So when I'm not around, they can do that job better. So I'm going to help the product owner get better at doing anything that can allow them to be able to help us to maximize the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. So as a Scrum Master, your job really is to, hey, make sure that product owner is a better product owner. So then you go down some of the things that a product owner does. You know, product owners can own vision, manage vision, build roadmaps, manage roadmaps, do release management, product backlog management, right? Write requirements. Those are just simple things a product owner can do. If they don't know how to do it that well, it becomes my job to help get them there. Okay? So really simple answer. Now here we go. I got somebody complaining about my answer. Sounds nebulous. It's not. It's not nebulous. It really is. That's the way that it is. Because you can't say that a product owner does this one absolute thing, and in your organizations, product owners may do slightly different stuff. So, you know, realistically, you serve the product owner, you serve everybody by putting in a position to be more successful. I always position people to win. And because I position people to win, they position me to win. And so it becomes a symbiotic relationship. So I love it. Absolutely love it. So let's see. Let me go through. I did. It was one of my interview questions. Yeah, that's an interview question right there. For sure. But you think about what a product owner does and ways you can help that product owner be better at doing that. That's really your answer for an interview question. Because your job is not to do their job. That's not your job. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense, right? Hopefully that makes sense. But if you're brand new to Scrum, you might not get that. You may not get that because people that's brand new don't have the experience of that, if that makes sense. Okay? So really important. Really important. That's a good one. Other questions, because nobody ever wants to join me on the show so we can have a conversation. I'm starting to feel lonely here. Really lonely. No, I'm just joking. I don't mind answering your questions through the actual chat. So, other questions that you have, please drop them in the chat. Please drop them in the chat, right? I know that if that was an interview question, there we go, Evelyn. You're welcome, Evelyn. You're welcome. If there was if somebody asked me that as an interview question, I think that would be knocking it out the park, man. Knocking it out the park. Now, they might be upset at me and want some very specific items, which I can give examples of all that. You know, you get that with experience, but you know, it is what it is. That's the technical speak answer from a certified Scrum trainer. Or basically, what I would say to you that is officially from the Scrum Guide 2020. Oh, that's crazy, man. That's stupid. But, you know, it's just part of this life that we live. No, I actually enjoy it. I enjoy every last minute and every last bit of it because, you know, people just don't know. And sometimes you need to train them. And if I was working with some junior Scrum Masters or some new Scrum Masters, you know, I probably would work with them through some of that stuff to help them to be able to roll with it and do it. Got another question here. Do you support a combined project manager / CSM role? Hey. Can I say this my way? Can you all allow me to just be Devon for a minute, right? Uncle D. Just allow me to be Uncle D for a moment. Are they gonna pay you money to be the project manager / Scrum Master? If the answer is yes to that, then I support it. Let me say it again. If they are going to pay you cashola, money, and that's your opportunity for sliding into a Scrum-ish role, because most of y'all is out here doing Scrum is doing Scrum-ish roles. Do me a favor. Type Scrum-ish in the chat. You know you doing a Scrum-ish role. Like most of you all here are doing a Scrum-ish role. So type Scrum-ish in the chat because you know you're doing a Scrum-ish role. So the majority of the time, 99.99% of companies in here do not do perfect Scrum people. They just don't. And so one of the biggest things that they mess up is always going to be the role of Scrum Master because nobody have a clue what the Scrum Master does, right? So let me put it to you a better way. I first really started doing Scrum at State Farm back in 2005, right? Literally, that's when I started doing it, right? Now, my official title at that time, hear me, my official title was Project Planner, which means I was paired with I wasn't a project manager. I was paired with a project manager to manage the project plan and be building these 5,000 line Primavera plans. It was stupid. I left that job, and the next role I had was Agile Project Manager. And when I walked into Capital One, let's just say this is a book. Let's say, here's the book. They gave me the book. They gave me the official, this is what we do in terms of project management. And they gave me the list of items that existed. And they said, you can do Scrum, you can do Waterfall, but here's the things that you have to do regardless in terms of, because you're also managing the project management, you're just not managing the Scrum stuff. And so literally my role was to be the project manager and the Scrum Master at the same time. Ain't no shame, because guess what? They was paying me. They was paying me money. So I did not care. If anybody comes to me right now, I say I was a Scrum Master. But officially, I was the project manager / Scrum Master. I took care of all the project management stuff and all the Scrum stuff. I was officially by title an Agile Project Manager. Do you understand? So me, if I got a role, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get paid. First, I'm going to get paid first. Because you can't feed nobody with your Scrum dreams. Let me try that one more time. Do me a favor, y'all. Type in the chat, eat. Type in the chat, eat. You understand? You cannot eat your Scrum dreams. You understand? And since you cannot eat your Scrum dreams, I would advise that you get paid. Now, am I ridiculous for saying that? No, I'm not. Because would you do your job if they wasn't paying you. I love my job. I do it for free. And I'm doing my job right now for free. You understand? So, look, y'all, get paid. I'm not going to, ain't nothing worse when you broke. Well, I've been real broke before. But get paid first, right? Get paid. You make enough money, you can take care of a lot of things, take care of your family, everything else. But your children, your parents, if you're taking care of them, they cannot eat your scrum dreams. They can't digest them very well. That is so stupid. Why do y'all allow me to say these things? Do you understand? Why? I don't know. But Ms. Hancock, I'll say it once again, look, hey, got no problem with that. If I was actually a project manager and I was very interested in Scrum and that wasn't officially my role, I would find ways to incorporate Scrum-ish kind of things into the role that I have. And I would use that as my way to bounce to the next place. Because if you're able to show that, for example, you're doing daily scrums, right? If you're able to show, for example, that you're having retrospectives, and maybe your retrospectives are not on the cadence, but they're retrospectives nonetheless, right? The idea is really very simple. You're doing the scrum. A lot of people don't have a lot of dense scrum experience. Your scrum experience may be a little bit more lightweight, but you're at least doing something. And so my philosophy would be if that exists, then you want to go ahead and make sure that you take care of it. Got it? So really, really, really very simple. Okay? Let's see. Let's talk. Let's see. Do you have space for alumni to attend a CSM this week? The one happened on Wednesday and Thursday? Yeah, man, send me a message. So, for those that do not know, in terms of Bearded Eagle, let me let you know how things go and operate. For Bearded Eagle alumni, we always allow alumni to come back for a one-time refresher of the class that they took. And realistically, the way I operate with it is really very simple. You just let us know, and we'll put you in the class. It's no big deal. Especially today, in today's world, with the fact that we're just doing really only virtual. Because unless we've hit the limit for the class number, in this class this week, I definitely haven't hit the limit. Because the limit is about 30 people. And I don't have a class of 30 people coming up on Tuesday, right? So make sure you just send me an email. And that email, team@beardedeagle.com. Team, T-E-A-M, at Bearded Eagle. Like a bearded man, but instead of beardedeagle.com. Okay? But you've been to the classes, Jermaine, so you know exactly where to send the stuff. So send me an email, and I'll connect you, right? Just know I'll likely do that more tomorrow, but send me the email tonight so that it's on my radar for tomorrow, because I got a class tomorrow as well. Okay, so really, really, really important. When COVID first started, right? I first started training CSM classes back in 2013, and there was somebody I trained, like they were in my fourth or fifth class that I ever trained. Like the fourth or fifth class that I ever trained, they was in that class, right? And they reached out to me when the pandemic happened because they lost their job and they wanted to come back for a refresher. And I was just like, come through. I kind of look at it like this. In Bearded Eagle, you're kind of family. And we try our best to take care of family as best we can. I mean, we can't go broke, right? But we do everything in our power to take care of family, right? And I actually had somebody reached out to me a day or so ago and asked if they'd be in a class, and I just put them in today. So you're welcome to join, Jermaine. There's no problem. And that's all Bearded Eagle alumni. Welcome. You're welcome. I just got limits on the numbers that I can do in the classes, and as long as we got some people in the class, for me, we can add more. Now, what I'm not going to do is just have a class just full of y'all, because I don't get nothing. I got to pay the bills. and you can come here and ask your questions, right? You have some access, right? So that's a good question. But yeah, you can always come back for a refresher. Nothing crazy about that. Let's see. The Scrum Master role is increasingly becoming popular with a lot of people getting into it. What future do you see for Scrum Master role? I think the sky's the limit, man. I don't see the role going away anytime soon. And I would put it to you even like this, right? I've been around Scrum since 2005. I've never been unemployed unless it was by choice. Let me say that again. I've been around Scrum since 2005. I've never been unemployed unless it was by choice. So I didn't know what Scrum was going, and I was involved in Scrum when people thought Scrum was a nasty thing. And so I think that the Scrum Master role has nothing but growth associated with it, because a lot of Scrum Masters move toward doing more coaching activities. And so I literally think that there's just a ton of places for you to grow as long as you are willing to continue to develop yourself. And if you do that, it's a major plus. So I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I know for me it turned into me becoming a certified Scrum trainer. The first black certified Scrum trainer on the planet Earth. Okay? So good question. I'm going to ask you to do like P. Bell says. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. If you are on LinkedIn, come join the YouTube and subscribe, because by the end of the year, I want to make sure we have 1,000 people. We're almost halfway in, and we got 537 people. So I need you to go ahead and subscribe. Let's get these numbers up. Let people know about it. It's free. And then there's over 100 videos that are on the site. So I need to chop some of those videos up, and I do that every once in a while when I have time. But the more this thing grows, the better it is for everyone involved. So please like, please subscribe, please join us. I don't say that enough. I'm actually grabbing the actual link for the actual YouTube, the LinkedIn people, because the LinkedIn people are the ones that's over there in no man's land. But I'm going to drop it over there for them, okay? So they have it, okay? So please join the YouTube, subscribe, like, all those wonderful and great things. And for you all that's on the YouTube, you have no excuse if you're not subscribed. Just like and subscribe. And here's the problem. For black folks like me, people don't do a lot of subscribing to channels. It's crazy. It's just what the data shows according to YouTube. Anyway, I get it. I understand. Ain't no love, even though I love y'all, right? So this has been amazing, everyone. I've had a good time. This is how this goes. We just go back and forth and answer questions that people may have or curious about. So next time we're gonna, and I'm looking it up real quick so I can tell you what we're gonna talk about next go round, because I always forget to do that. But I'm getting better, y'all. I'm gonna be superb at doing this stuff one day in my life. I don't know when that's gonna be, but one day I'm gonna get better at doing this thing. Nothing but love for you. You know that all day, right? As you see, it's already there, right? So we talked about fragmented tools. The next topic that we'll be talking about next week is we're going to talk about waterfall actually working. Waterfall works, people. It really does, and that will be our topic next week. Come and challenge me on it. Come and challenge me on waterfall working, right? Because I'd like for you to challenge me, because a lot of times you're just doing things wrong. And we're going to talk about that next week. Other than that, I'm going to say, hey, everybody, it has been a pleasure. I have enjoyed myself thoroughly with you all as usual, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Next Monday, 8 p.m. Central Time is when we're going to go. So other than that, you have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will see you soon, and peace. Have a good night.